All right, this is take 2 on creating a character from scratch. So I'm just gonna go back into it. We are going to pick a character from scratch that we want to play. So there's a couple options. You can pick a concept. A lot of people have a concept they're really excited about playing, and I always encourage people play something in preparing themselves for doing things and acting in a way that not only the character would, but as well as how the player would. So kind of a 50-50 player-character relation, so you can immerse yourself into the RPG, TTRPG. So A would be pick a concept. You might have something in mind, you pick it, and then you kind of create what your concept is. You could pick a mini. So some people like to pick a cool mini, and I recommend you pick 2 minis. One, kind of like a future goal of how your mini wants to be, and then something a little more basic. A lot of my games start with basic, level 1 or less. And then option C, and I know there's other options that I might be missing here, but would be to roll randomly. So what I did for this character is I rolled my D9, 10-sided die, and I figured if I rolled a 0, an 8, or a 9, I would re-roll, so I could come up with one of the 7 starter classes that we have for Enlightened. I rolled a 4, which the way I had my list is Rogue came up number 4, so we're gonna build a Rogue type character from scratch. So what we're gonna do, we kind of go ahead, we look into the PDF, we see that a Rogue needs 7 coordination and a 7 mental. And so I'm going to make a little note there. Just a little 7 here and a 7 here. We might go a little higher on one of them. But we start with 5s all the way down. And the next thing I want to do, well, before I get into it, I just wanted to throw it out there that when I was running games in the past, I always felt a little bit shackled. How the game master books, the player handbooks, and the monster manuals really made me feel like I was confined to the rules. To if I wanted to create something, I had to really triple check my work with all the different stats and whatnot. So one of the mission statements I would say to this game was to keep things simple. Whatever you can imagine, you can conform into the game and use dials, if you will, to level up, level down your encounters and creatures. But anyway, I want to say that from working with my friend Jim Murphy, I've really had not only a fun time, but been able to explore my creative gaming skills, if you will, because the way Jim teaches how easy this really could be. So again, I really struggled and I felt shackled to all the books and the balancing and just the modules, and now it's a wide open canvas of creativity, and it's really a lot easier than I thought, and I'm having a blast. So anyway, let's go back to our rogue here. We'll say he was born around 305 BC, probably in Hoden Bay, and then they traveled up to and founded Timber Sprout. The first batch of kids were, as you might know from the PDF, Bastion and Samuel, Blake, Edward, and Rupert. So this would probably be one of the younger kids, probably a baby when they first settled Timber Sprout. So I'm going to say he was born in 305 BC, and it's probably somewhere around 289 BC now. I'll put that down here, 289 BC. And we're looking at Rogue. But this guy, I'm going to flip over to the other side on notes and progression. His mom and aunt, and the reason I say that is because all the men were killed on the Pilgrim Trail to Timber Sprout, and only the women and children were left. So his mom and aunt are farmers. So he's got, by default, some farming. So we're going to put that down. Farmer, and off to the right, I'll put a 10 because it's going to cost 10 pop. We'll put a 30. We'll get Rogue down because we're going to work toward that. Kind of work backwards, if you will. So as long as we have a 7 coordination and a 7 mental, we got Rogue handled. So let's see what we decided to do. Farmer. Yeah, his mom and his aunt aren't too fond of him going out and joining the defenses, but it's kind of a mandatory thing here in Timber Sprout. Anybody who's able and willing should defend. They gave him, he actually has a bow with arrows and a knife that he uses just to cut up things that he might farm. They give him a necklace with a clay symbol on it. It's a clay necklace with a symbol they carved in, which matches the carvings around the hamlet of Timber Sprout. So they were ambushed by elves back in the beginning of the pilgrimage, and the elves wanted everybody that could read the Elvish dialect to know that this place, Timber Sprout, was to be protected and not to be trifled with. So they carved these symbols around in various places, and the same symbol is on the necklace of our rogue. All right, so now we are looking at building this character from scratch. He's got all 5s, but he spent, we're gonna say, 2 years from about age 14 to age 16. Spent 2 years doing some not only farming, but some minor help with the local militia in and around Timber Sprout. So let's give him 2 years of progression. And if you're not adventuring and you're doing simple things around town, you're only going to get 25 per season. So 2 years puts him at 200 pop. He's going to spend 150, and I'll show you where we spend all that and have 50 left over toward future upgrades and progressions. So we got a farmer rogue. The 150 basically comes from 10 pop he's going to spend on his physical. He's been probably gaining more coordination and mental than physical, so we've got 70 pop spent in coordination. It takes him to 8 actually instead of 7, which is still good. And then mental 30, which takes him to 7. So we're going to have scores of 6, 8, and 7. All right, we can fill in the defense next. That would be the mental score of 7 plus the coordination score of 8 is 15. Half of that is 7.5 minus encumbrance. His encumbrance is a 1, so we're going to round that up to an 8 minus 1 is a 7. Encumbrance of 1, because I believe he's got hide armor. He actually almost died from a wolf attack, but he ended up coming out the victor and used that wolf to create some hide armor for himself. So we got bow and arrow, so we're going to put a bow, we're going to put a small knife, and we're going to put hide. Now the hide's going to absorb 2, encumbrance of 1, so we'll put a little 2 in the shield here. Also up here we got a little 2. He's not running any shields, so that's an NA on that one. And then our encumbrance is 1. We already have it up here where we calculate his defense. We'll put the target scores in. Our target scores are the numbers you need to roll at or above to succeed in a challenge that tests your physical, coordination, or mental. And when you do a basic defense, you can have a defense that is physical based, maybe more like a constitution score, or you could have a defense that's strictly coordination, and those could be called in gameplay by the game master. But if it's a standard defense, it basically looks at the mental and the coordination, and that's where we come up with a 7. So the targets are 18 minus the score. So physical target is going to be 12. And we have 10 for the coordination target, and 11 for the mental target, and 11 for the defensive target. Our offensive tier, if you look at the PDF, we actually have some errata on that, so I'm just going to skip to the errata. The offensive tier for the physical plus the coordination, which in this case is 14, is tier 2. And the bonus damage on that is a 3. So with the bow, his arrows are going to do 2 damage on top of the overroll. And then in a melee stab with his knife, that will be 5 because it includes bonus damage in melee combat. So damages are going to be 2 from a distance, 5 up close, that we'll add to the overall. Let's calculate health. Health is 2 physical, which is 12, half a mental, which is 3.5. So 15.5 rounded up is 16, and then he hasn't adventured out with a group yet, so his long rest and off season will be dealt with at a later time. Under loot, we're going to write necklace. It's the one with the symbol. He thinks it's a symbol of protection, so does his mother and his aunt. That's the elven symbol of protection there. Okay, so again, just to confirm our pop spent on the back, I believe we had farmer for 10, rogue for 30, that's 40. 10 on physical takes us to 50. 30 on mental takes us to 80. And 70 on coordination takes us to 150 pop spent. So there's 150, and there's 50 left over. For equipment, we're going to say he has a sack of tools, which includes items like a stone for sharpening, his knife, and for maybe sharpening his arrowheads, and then some miscellaneous, which he might be able to reinforce the hilt of his blade. All right, now I probably spelled that wrong, but we're good with it. All right, what else do we need here? I think we've got it covered. Let me look at my notes. He's about age 16. He is a farmer rogue. And we have our items fleshed out. And we're going to flip to the back under rogue and add what the rogue can do. We have ease when doing something stealthy. He's got ease when bluffing. Why a farmer might be able to bluff, I have no idea. Maybe trying to convince buyers of their vegetables that they were not tainted in any way. Slither, no roll needed. Slither, he can basically get out from a grab or a grapple and move by people in combat without giving them what they would call an opportunity attack, or whatever that might be in this game. And then initiative interrupt is the last talent he has, which means in combat he can jump in anywhere in the player's turn. So the smart rogue might sit at the right hand of the game master as to be able to jump in any order in the initiative. All right, what else do we have? I think that might be it. Yep, so that's our farmer. The only thing left is a name, and we will call him Fred. Fred the farmer rogue, ready to join the defense team of Timbersprout. All right, we'll drop another character next time. But as for now, peace.